You strike me as an academic chap like myself. You know, people say, "Oh, Atwood
Yeah.
thinks he's a gangster." I've never ever claimed to be a gangster. I'm a business nerd who watched too many mafia movies. I got some gangsteritis, and I was putting myself in extremely dangerous situations. Do you have any parallels in your story?
Yeah, to some extent. I remember when I was growing up, sneaking downstairs. I think, in fact, it was my mum's parents' house up in Scotland, sneaking down the stairs at night to watch the black and white TV at the grandparents' house. Charlie Chan gangster type films.
Yeah,
And I always preferred the gangster side to the cop side. That's for sure.
yeah,
So I was definitely the gangster in the cops and robbers games.
yeah. I grew up on like Miami Vice and
Not saying that
the
I am,
Sweeney.
and I never claimed to be like yourself. Not a gangster at all.
So how did you do in school then?
Pretty well. Yeah, I did. I went to school in Tetbury, so William Romney's. So big shout out to all of those students at Tetbury School. Gained 14 GCSEs, all A's and B's. Went to Cirencester Deer Park Sixth Form College. So big shout out to those guys as well.
Which subjects did you have an aptitude for?
I've always loved archaeology, so I went on to do archaeology at secondary college and university as well
Yeah.
in Cardiff. But yeah, archaeology, geography, biology, got all of those at A level, and English actually, English literature,
And
which helped in the future.
what caused you, I imagine like I did, you got all the time in the world to look back on your life in prison and you
yeah.
reflect and things. And you kind of like, if I'd have made this choice and that choice, and you go back years and years and years and years.
Yeah, definitely.
Was the stuff that you saw early on warning signs that perhaps you didn't heed that put you on that path?
Yeah.
What were they?
I got involved with the drug scene drugs and the illegal party scene at a very young age.
What year was that then?
88, 9.
Oh, Summer of Love.
Yeah, I was only 12, 13, but I had two older stepbrothers, one a year older than the other, like 3 or 4 years older, and they were both involved in organising illegal parties and DJing at them and all this sort of stuff. So I'd been the younger, tagged along, and obviously got involved in drugs and drug dealing.
So you were taking drugs at age 12?
Yeah, started smoking weed probably younger than that, I think. And yeah, as they all say, it's the gateway drug. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But progressed to pills and LSD and stuff like that.
So I had a bit of turmoil inside me when I was on the drugs. You know, the anxiety went away. I was the life and soul of the party.
I can imagine.
Were you masking something? Did you have some kind of anxiety or?
Home life wasn't great. So yeah, I suppose to some extent.
What do you mean by that home life wasn't great?
My mum was an alcoholic, which didn't help matters. So yeah, I suppose it was quite tough growing up. Not a great deal of money at home. So I think that was one reason I got involved in the drug dealing, is just to offset costs and be able to party like the other guys. That sort of story.
Was your mum an alcoholic then when she had you, or was that?
I don't think so. No.
Right.
What are you trying to say, Sean?
I'm just trying to.
Do I have brain damage?
I'm just trying to analyse like how long you had to live with a person who was an alcoholic.
Yeah, I think that came a little bit later.
Okay.
As far as I can remember. But anyway.
Because that's got to be stressful for a kid.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I have some friends and have been in similar situations, and parents have died prematurely because of alcohol.
My mum is dead now. She died
dear.
whilst I was incarcerated in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Which is traumatic, to say the least.
I can imagine. Yeah. All right, so describe then, what's it like going to a rave in the summer of love at age 12?
Can't really remember a great deal of it. But I mean, I remember the first one that I ever went to was actually in my hometown of Stroud, in an old, it was the old Great Mills the like DIY centre that shut down.
Yeah.
And there's now the post office sorting centre at Salmon Springs.
Yeah.
And I think I was probably I was probably about 15 by that point, 14, 15. And Mickey Finn played there, turned up in the morning and played a set, which is quite cool. So yeah, it was a good experience. It was all a bit sort of bewildering, I suppose, to a certain extent, being that young.
And the music wasn't divided, was it? It was called Acid House.
It was Acid House, rave. It was. Yeah. That was the great thing about it. It was one music, wasn't it? It was one love and all the rest of it.
Did any tracks stand out to you? Like for me, I always remember Guru Josh.
I'm really bad with names of people, tracks, and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
terrible. But one of my all-time favourites was, I Feel Love, the Donna Summer track.
Yeah, yeah.
That High on Ecstasy in the Morning is just, yeah.
I still love that track. Yeah.
That's a good one.
So you're quite savvy then to the drug market at a young age,
Yeah.
and you said you graduated into dealing from using. Was that just like hooking up your friends in the beginning?
Yeah. I think that's how it always starts. I mean, initially it was with weed and hash. I mean, it was mainly hash back in the day, wasn't it? You know,
Yeah.
flat press, pollens, squidgy black, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Red seal, gold seal, and started dealing hash, smoking it as well. And then the pills and stuff were mainly at the weekends at the parties,
Yeah.
because obviously I was still at school. And then LSD came on a bit later on, because obviously that's a lot more, a lot stronger drug.
So you had a good enough brain on you to scramble, but still
Yeah.
managed to buckle down and get all your qualifications.
In fact, I remember that the week of the GCSEs, I think it was about 2 weeks before I started the GCSEs, Castle Morton took place.
Mm.
I mean, I think everybody's heard of the Castle Morton Free Party. It went on for a week. I was there for about 5 days, came back, didn't sleep for a week.
Yeah.
Oh no, slept for a week after coming back, and then did my GCSEs.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I remember doing
something like that anyway.
doing my business studies exams on Monday morning after raving all weekend with just like KLF and all these beeps and going off in my brain. I'm sat there doing these essays.
How old are you now?
So I am 52.
52.
Yeah.
Don't look it. Fair play.
Thank you very much. All right. So did you have any brushes with the law at that age?
Yeah. I'd actually forgotten about that. But my first brush with the law, which should have been a warning sign, was at a very young age of 6.
6?
Yeah, I remember I actually stole a friend's mother's gold jewellery.
Yeah.
And hid it at home. I can't even remember the reason now. And obviously they clocked on. And the local police officer was called PC Flinders. He was a motorbike cop, turned up, big moustache, glasses, sat me down in the kitchen. Now, Peter, when you grow up, if you don't get things straight now, you're going to end up in trouble and go to prison. I was in tears.
Yeah.
And that talk obviously didn't work.
What was the next scrape?
Next one was quite some time after, was at Sixth Form College in Cirencester. Got caught dealing drugs and asked to leave the college, but they allowed me to sit the A-level exams, which was good of them. So, got my A-levels and went on to university at Cardiff. And then...
Was that archaeology?
Yeah, archaeology.
Okay.
So the next scrape after that would have been when I got arrested at the age of about 23 in 2024, I would have been.
23 in what? Was that in this country?
Yeah, in Britain, in May of 2000.
So run down what led up to the arrest.
So basically when I got arrested at Sixth Form College, I stopped dealing altogether because I thought, well, I've got to get life sorted, back on track.
Yeah.
Really, I wanted to do medicine, but didn't have the financial backing. So decided to read archaeology, which I did. Dropped out halfway through because of one thing and another, personal issues and too much drug dealing. I'd become involved in the Cardiff scene by that point with people like Kerrius Matthews from Catatonia, partying with them, Super Furries, just all that sort of set, the media set down there.
Yeah.
Howard Marks was back out by that point, so I met him a few times. So dealing to a lot of people in Cardiff, not them, but dealers within Cardiff as well as students, and decided to move to Bristol where my girlfriend at the time was studying, and the empire spreads out into Bristol as well. My home area, so I'm now covering quite a large area of England, and then decided to branch out into Scotland. So I made some contacts up there, and it just escalates very rapidly.
Yeah.
And before I knew it, from starting with half an ounce of cocaine in Cardiff, which was the first time I dealt with coke. It'd been mainly pills and amphetamines and hash and stuff before. From going from dealing half an ounce of coke, to a friend down there, up to dealing 10 keys of coke a week.
How do you source that much quantity?
Through contacts through contacts in my home area who had contacts in London.
I see.
So it was directly from London at that time.
Without naming any names then, what's the route? Is it South America, mainland Europe, and then bounces over to London?
No, at that point, we were involved with some people that they were bringing it in by yacht through the Caribbean and in through the south coast.
Yeah.
They were actually arrested. The first bust I think happened in 1998.
Yeah.
And I think that's when the police became aware of myself and the guy that I was working with, because we were actually waiting at Marble Arch the night that these guys got busted, and one of them was on the way to us to drop off 3 or 4 keys of coke. Didn't make it. And it was on the news the following day that he'd been busted with about 30 or 40 keys of coke in the boot of the car on the way to meet us, stopped about half a mile short. And that led to them seizing 430 kilos in London and 600 on the boat in Kerry. So that was a pretty big bust. And I know that the guy we knew he was on remand for about 5 or 6 years as a Category A and got sentenced in 2002, 2003, no, 2002. And by that point, I'd been arrested in Gloucestershire in 2000 and was in Parkhurst when I got sentenced.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was all what led to my first arrest.
So now with some of the Colombian cartels, then, if a shipment gets busted, depending upon your relationship with them, they see the newspaper clippings, they see the headline news, they know you're not trying to just welch on the money, and they may give you a pass. When that much gets taken, does the people who have signed for it, do they get a pass?
Depends on the circumstances, doesn't it? I mean, I think these guys were funding it. I mean, they've been doing it for a while, and I think they were funding it themselves by that point.
Okay.
I mean, I know one of them. I'm not going to name a name, but I know he's worth about 200 million.
Wow.
So
so it's just the cost of doing business for him.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they just took the hit. He was on the run for years after, went to Cyprus, and was brought back from Spain eventually when they changed the extradition law in Cyprus.
Yeah. So when you get arrested, in my case, it took months to get all my legal discovery, and I read that there was 10 police informants that had, given this information and why that came about. Did you get your legal discovery and trace back actually how they caught you?
What, when I got arrested in Britain?
This first time, yeah.
I mean, it was difficult because there were informants involved, but they PI, what's it called, public immunity order, or whatever.
Protected their names.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we never really worked out who it was the first time, but the second time I knew exactly who it was when I got arrested in Ecuador, because we were getting information from someone in the police about the ongoing operation into us. So we knew exactly who it was, and he knows who he is. And I mean, it wasn't just one person, but the key informant was actually named at Bristol Crown Court.
Yeah. Was that person close to you?
Yeah, he was, because when we set up the I mean, this is going forward in time a little bit now.
Yeah.
When we set up the organisation, I suppose you could call it, our little group, to start importing cocaine, there was me, a Colombian, and a Chilean. And so there was the three of us as partners. And it was the Colombian who became the informant, key informant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's pretty close.
We're going to get to that then. All right, then. So you're going in prison for your first time. You're in your mid-20s. What's that like for you? Is it a shock?
That was pretty scary. I mean, I was a long-haired hippie raver at that point. I think there's a photograph of me coming out of Cheltenham Magistrates with my head down, long hair, trying to cover my face with all that scenario.
That'd be great if we could stick that in. What time are we at? 5 to, yeah.
Yeah, it's out there somewhere. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty nerve-wracking. They had me potential Category A because they'd linked me to the Adams in London, the crime family, Islington direction, which I denied, obviously, strenuously. So, yeah, if you're watching, Terry, and all that lot. So, Yeah, they were trying to, throw a whole lot of shit on me that wasn't really, what it was. I mean, I got caught with 5,000 pills and a load of weed, a few kilos of amphetamine, some coke, sawed-off shotgun, stuff like that. So they put me on a potential ACAT thing at Gloucester prison, which was pretty tough because being a potential A category meant that I couldn't talk to any other inmates. They would close the entire wing down, bring me out on my own just to go and get my dinner. So 2 screws in front, 2 behind. I was on the book, which means that they would write down any movements if I came out of the cell. I'd be taken from A to B, and it would all be noted down what time and where I was going, and everything basically. Totally invasive. They would come into my cell almost daily, smash it to pieces.
Yeah.
Just search for everything, trample all over my photographs, family photographs on the floor, trample all over it. Do you know what I mean? I got strip searched by female officers in a cell, which is like against the law.
It's against the law in Arizona.
They're just trying to humiliate you.
Yeah.
And also all my phone calls recorded, all my letters open and photocopies sent to the police, half of which I never received anyway. Visits would be in the visit room, but quite often behind glass, or if not, I'd have the SO sat on the table listening to the entire conversation.
Yeah.
Very invasive. And that went on for about a year. Didn't get sentenced for I was on remand nearly 2 years. So I remember one of the officers saying that I was the longest remand prisoner that they'd had at Gloucester for 15 years.
Wow.
I mean, that prison is now closed.